Hey guys, this is Amy with the Sephora PRO team.
And Myiesha on the Sephora PRO team, and today we're going to talk about all kinds of powders.
Powders, translucent powders, HD powders, color correcting powders, baking, everything you wanted to know.
All the powders. There's so much to learn about powders. I feel if you're not a makeup artist, everything's really simple though. We're just going to demystify a few things because you're asking in the comment section, and we're seeing a lot of the same questions. So we just want to make a video addressing all the different kinds of powders and what to actually do with them.
All right, well, let's get started.
Yeah.
So we broke it down into like little categories. Okay, so the first category is a translucent powder versus an HD powder. Yeah, so translucent powders have been around a really long time. So basically they're translucent, meaning that, you know, one particular powder that we have is, you know, the super popular Laura Mercier translucent powder. And it really works on all different skin tones because it melts into the skin.
If it's looking ashy or dusty on your skin tone, you're probably just using too much of it. This is the only powder that I carry in my kit, or only setting powder I carry in my kit. And my kit is, yeah, it's well equipped to do from bare to deep skin. So if you're using too much, you're gonna see ashiness. But other than that, I mean, you're fine.
And that's kind of too, like when you start seeing, like, you know, celebrities on the red carpet with like the white under their eyes, and you're like, oh girl, like what? Now in person, it probably looks really great, but on camera, because of the flash, that's usually what happens with an HD powder, is that it's made with a silica. A silica is like a mineral, and it blurs out any imperfections, but again, if you put too much on and don't blend it out, you end up getting a flashback and like a whitish cast.
Like this is a translucent powder. This is the NARS crystal powder, and when it's sitting on top of each other in the actual package, it's white, but when you look at it and blend it on the skin, it's clear. So if you see it on your skin as white, it's just sitting on top of each other, i.e. it's like too much. And if you bake like I bake, you will know that translucent powder feels like a flour, and the HD powders feel like a cornstarch or like a silica. So that's kind of the difference. If you're ever unsure of what you have, just feel them. One feels a little bit rougher and madder.
Yeah, and the other one feels like really slippery.
Like powdered primer or something like that. Like that sort of feeling to it. I would say HD powder is more like if you have texture on your cheeks or like things you want to blur, you put a little bit of that, but in order to make your makeup last, like apply a setting powder.
Yeah, for sure. And you could even, like, I've done this too, you know, like if I'm gonna do some kind of baking, like I only do it strategically in the areas where I'm oily, not in the areas where I'm dry. So I can bake really with my translucent powder and let it sit in there, and then I lightly dust the HD powder in the areas where I would have more texture.
Yeah, so only really powder where you need it. I would say setting your makeup is crucial. It's kind of like when you paint your nails. If you don't put a top coat, it's gonna look good for a couple hours, but it's not gonna look good all day. It's just gonna start to wear off. So think of it that way. You always need to set anything that's liquid or cream or anything like that.
Absolutely.
And now we're going to talk about colored powders. So there's different colors of powder. Even though translucent powder can work for any skin color or any skin type, there's different colors of powder, so if people have a preference. Cover FX has a really good selection of colored powders. So they have 3, if I'm not mistaken, light, medium, and dark.
So
this one is the dark right here. Oops.
Medium, dark, sorry.
This one is the light. So really great if you have deeper skin, obviously, but if you kind of like a little bit of color to your skin, or you want to look a little bit more tan, or maybe the foundation you currently have is too light for whatever reason, you can use something a little bit deeper to give yourself a little bit more color. But yeah, CoverFX has a really great selection of those.
Yeah, I like them too because I know that if I'm like sometimes, like right now I have on self tanner, and my face will fade a little bit faster than the rest of it because I'm doing more treatment products. You know, I'll use a deeper translucent powder just to add a little bit of color and keep it evened out. Or if I didn't do my self tanner correctly.
Like last night, she won't tell you that, but.
No, that's why I'm wearing long sleeves. So I was a little streaky. And so I just like, thanks a lot, man.
Put your business out there on the street.
My life's an open book for all of you. I just can't. So I'll take a little bit of that, and it'll actually help to even out any kind of streaks.
Yeah, and I like the, if you're really fair and you find that blending is not the easiest for you, I'll use this as a bronzer on really fair skin, because sometimes they just can't find a color that's not orange or not red. So this is so sheer that it's a really great bronzer for truly, truly fair skin.
I use them as eyeshadows too sometimes.
Yeah, you can think outside the box.
For sure. Okay, so and then also we have brightening powders. So this one is from Laura Mercier. Of course, it's translucent, but it's also a brightening powder. So you know, you use it underneath the eye area to really brighten up that area. Maybe use it as like a highlight. You know, if you did like a soft contour, you could use this as a soft highlight.
I use this under my eye every day, and as small as this little package is, I think I've had mine over a year.
I've had it like a year and a half.
Not light-handed. I'm very heavy-handed because that's the only place I ever bake. I put a little excess there, and I look up as I do it. I think that's the trick too. You kind of just throw powder on your face and you're like, oh, okay, like my concealer's set. Yeah, basically it's like a dust storm. But if you look up and you push the powder into your under eye, you're getting into those little creases. And that's where your powder usually doesn't get when you look straight ahead. So just push the powder up into your under eye, looking up, and it should help a lot when you're setting, because even though like I'm oily, my makeup breaks down all the time, under my eye, it does not, because I do that.
You know, speaking of that too, yeah, that's amazing. I will do something similar. I love the looking up thing. I actually just learned that from Myiesha yesterday, so I think that's a really cool, and I did it today and it totally worked. And I also do that for creasing around the mouth area, like the nasolabial folds, you know, even like crow's feet, maybe like the number 11s that, you know, I have going on here. So, you know, I'll take my finger and just kind of smush my powder
anywhere where the face like naturally moves, like where you would normally get creases and whatnot.
Yeah.
Color correcting powders.
Color correcting powders. Yes. So yeah, here I'll take on the yellow. So color correcting powders, you'll see like yellow, lavender, maybe even some green. Mainly what a yellow powder can do for you is like really neutralize any kind of pinkness that's in the skin. I know for me, I have a yellow undertone on my skin, so a lot of the times, you know, I'll have this pinkness, not redness, that's what the green is for, but you know, for the yellow, it's that pinkness that I have on my cheeks and my chin and maybe around my nose, that this could be my setting powder rather than the translucent, and it'll also neutralize those areas.
Yeah, the lavender is really good if you have an overall very, very yellow skin tone on your face that you don't really have flowing as strongly through your body. Or if you find that maybe your foundation is looking a little bit yellow, you can set with the lavender powder and it'll just calm it down a little bit. And it's also really brightening. If you're fair and you want to have that like beautiful, like fair sort of like porcelain glow, this will give that to you.
And it actually is kind of like using anything lavender is almost like, you know, an anti-aging, you know, magical treatment in.
Very brightening. Like you, a lot of times when you get older, you're just like, I don't know, I just want to look brighter. And like,
yeah, exactly.
That's what you're looking for.
Which is something I need to try. You know, so I think that's pretty much
baking.
Baking.
How did you forget about baking?
All right, so let's talk about some bacon. So we not bacon, eat
bacon,
but like baking. You know, so baking, it has been. I mean, we see your comments. We read all of your comments. So you know, if you haven't subscribed yet, go ahead and subscribe, because you know you'll get alerts for whatever we're talking about, you know, whatever videos that we post, because we actually respond to your comments and through video. So what we've been hearing is a lot about baking, and baking is a really old strategy for theater, and it's one of the first
and drag
things.
queens.
And drag queens, which is theater.
Yes.
So basically it's by, you know, packing on a lot of powder and letting it sit there and bake, if you will, and then eventually buffing it out. And what that's supposed to do is really set your makeup for long term.
It gives you a really matte finish to the skin.
Right.
Really good when you want longevity of your makeup, or if you feel like you're going to be somewhere where you're going to be dancing or sweating or something like that. For every day, you can kind of bake in certain areas. Like I said, use this one and just pack a little bit extra. You can see the powder under my eye. Let it set like no more than like a couple minutes, and I just dust it away.
Like I know I get really shiny like around my eyebrows, and in my T-zone, around my nose, and like just on the center of my chin, but I'm dry everywhere else. So like baking isn't necessarily for the dry areas for every day. So I'll use it just in those areas. I'll bake in my eyebrows. I'll put powder on my eyebrows and then let it sit for a couple minutes and then buff it out.
Yeah, I usually do it when I'm doing video or something like that, because the camera reflects a lot more light, or if I'm going somewhere that I know I need to have my makeup last all day long. If you do apply it, because it can make you look very dry if you overdo it, you can always use a toner. Like I have mini toners I like, but the Caudalie Beauty Elixir is really nice, especially for oily skin. And I'll just spray after. And when you're applying it, like it's pretty easy. Like I'll even show you. I have my brightening powder here. we'll just pretend that I just put a little bit of concealer on. This is just what I do every day. And I just pack it on underneath my eye.
And while Myiesha's doing that, I'm going to show you, I just take, there's a lot in here. I got to take some of that down. I just take a little bit of translucent powder and I roll one side of my brush. Now this is a lot more than I would normally put on. But if I'm going to bake, I'm actually going to really, and you can see that I'm getting a whitish cast. And that's why, like, after a while, after I'm done baking it, I will buff it out. I'm going to put it right over top of my brows and down on my nose. And I'm going to let it sit there for a while and then buff it out. Because what happens, like how when we talked about those celebrities, they probably are doing this and then not buffing it out enough.
Or using an HD powder, which can reflect
really,
a lot more.
Yeah. So these are just the areas that I'll use it in, and I'll just let it sit there for a little bit and then buff it right out. So I usually either just wipe off my brush or I'll take a different clean brush that's a little bit more dense and a little bit more stiff. And that's when I'll just go.
Brush it away.
Yeah.
Brush it away and buff it in. And whatever is left over is what is going to help your makeup stay. You can do it like Amy did if you're highlighting in certain areas and you feel like you put your powder on and you just look like, okay, I didn't highlight at all, like I just look flat. You can highlight with a lighter powder or like a colored yellow powder just in those areas. But just don't overdo it. I think that's when like the skin starts to lose its life and it just looks like over powdered.
Yeah, you know, I can even show you like with the dark powder too.
You can bake your contour.
I can bake my contour. So, you know, I can take a little bit of this and then I just kind of I wiggle it right in here. And you can start to see a soft contour, and I'll just kind of let that sit a little bit before I really blend it out. So then that way, you know, if I'm using I can use different powders for different areas of my face and get like a different effect. And then as soon as it's done baking, which I would wait a little bit longer than what I'm waiting now, like maybe I'll start working on my eyes or maybe I'll start working on my lips, but then I just take a nice soft brush and I'm really not applying too much pressure. There. So that just gives you a general idea of what you can do with powders. Okay, so that's pretty much it.
Yeah. If you think of anything else that we didn't get to, didn't answer, please ask below. And make sure you subscribe so you actually get an alert when we post something new, when we do answer your questions. And that's pretty much it. Hopefully we hear from you guys. We love talking to you. So we'll see you next time.
Okay, bye.
Bye.